We welcome back this evening for part two of our interview, Dr. Louis Uccellini, recently retired after 43 years of public service in the meteorology field, the last 8+ years as director of the National Weather Service. Again, Louis, thank you for spending time with us on Weather World.
Thank you for having me.
You know, as you reflect back on your time as director of the Weather Service, what are some of the things you're most proud of accomplishing?
Well, probably the most important is that I was really proud of the workforce throughout the National Weather Service for embracing the changes associated with the weather-ready nation. You know, going beyond the forecast and warning, their comfort zone, into actually connecting with decision making and connecting with the emergency management community specifically at every government level to ensure that every community is ready and responds to these upcoming extreme events. It's really those folks in public safety and emergency management that are on the ground affecting community decisions, and we connected with them. I'm also proud of the fact that we were able to build that trusted relationship with the emergency management community, because they're making decisions 7, 6, 5 days, 4 days before an event based on forecasts we know are not perfect, have a lot of uncertainty. And they had that trusted relationship with us. We worked for that. In terms of trusted relationships, I was also proud that we could reestablish a trusted relationship with the Hill, and that we received bipartisan, bicameral support during my entire tenure from the Hill in moving this, not only the weather-ready nation forward, but the entire infrastructure of the Weather Service, from observations to central processing, to the forecasting itself, to dissemination, which we still have a lot of work to do. We really were able to garner that support with that trusted relationship. And I, feel really, really good about that, that we were able to do that and move the enterprise forward.
And speaking of relationships, the relationship between the National Weather Service and the private sector of meteorology has certainly evolved over the years. Where do you see that relationship now?
Very strong. We have an important relationship within the entire enterprise, private sector. They provide tremendous services to their customers in these same type of events, extreme events, planning for how these particular parts of society, I would say, like agricultural, transportation, energy. So a lot of aspects that the private sector serves that we just don't have the resources for within government. All right, we really focus our government services on public safety. So you really have this entire societal aspect being served, the weather, water, and climate information by this enterprise. It's a very important part of what happens in this country, and it's actually recognized around the globe as a gold standard, of partnerships between public and private sector services being delivered within a country.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to go there next. When you met with your counterparts from other countries, what were the big conversations about? I mean, I know a lot of times you hear about competition between the models, the European and the American, but I would think cooperation makes more sense.
We have a long history of cooperation with other modeling centers. This country has bilateral partnerships with the European Center, with Canada, with Japan. It's just a really amazing thing to be a part of. And we share all our data. We share all the model output in real time so that the forecasters can make the best possible decisions, especially in these extreme events. So we have those kind of partnerships. And we're also, in a policy perspective, describing how we work with the private sector, because the private sector really is supporting the entire value chain of what we do, from observations, forecasts, to dissemination globally. And we benefit by that. And we actually work with the international community through the World Meteorological Organization now to ensure that what we do here and the private sector that supports what we do here can also operate in a global environment to the benefit of the global society. So all of that is in play in a true spirit of partnership, not competition.
Is there anything percolating at the National Weather Service that began under your leadership that you're excited to see come to fruition in the years to come?
Yeah, we really enhanced the central computing capacity for the numerical modeling. And now we see the numerical modeling aspect really ramping up, again, in partnership now with the academic community through what we've called EPIC, right? So having that computational capacity was essential, and we're seeing the fruits of that in terms of the model improvements, even as we've seen the forecast from the global forecast system for the hurricane track, for example. So we see that. We initiated this service life extension program for the NexRad radars so that, all the technology that was in that radar from the 70s, 80s, and 90s are now being replaced with modern technology. So we extend the capabilities of that radar into the 2040s, for example. So there was a lot of things initiated, supported by the Hill again, and is moving forward. And I really look forward to seeing that come across the finish line in many ways.
Once again, Louis, we're out of time. Dr. Louis Uccellini, recently retired director of the National Weather Service. Thanks for joining us, and especially thanks for your leadership over the years.
Thank you, John.
And we'll be back in a moment with a recap of the short range forecast.